Hey everybody, Steph here, and today I am making a river rock piece, the third one in my series, based on the Oregon coast. If you've never been to the Oregon coast, it has really dark glass, really dark water, reminiscent of this steel blue piece that I'm going to use for the water. You can see how dark this is. This is a 2mm sandwich with 2 pieces of Tecta. I've already glued it with glass tack and I'm too lazy to pry it apart. So I'm going to use this as the base piece. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a 3mm sheet of Tecta. And I am going to lay river rock down on top. And then from there, what I'm going to do is cut it into pebble shapes or rock shapes. Refine the shapes, fuse them into puddles, and then tack fuse them on top of this in a way that reminds me of the Oregon coast. Now, I don't know if you've ever been to the Oregon coast, and I will see if I can find a picture online that I can superimpose while I'm talking. But it's really beautiful, but it's not those simple, lush beaches, or not simple, but it's not beautiful, smooth beaches. There's a lot of rockiness to the Oregon coast. Sure, we have sandy beaches too, but there are plenty of rocks along the beaches, just out in the water, and, you know, for a good, say, quarter-mile out. Some of them are haystack rock formations, some of them are a bit more jagged. Some places there's no beach at all and just rock formations. But all of it is really beautiful, but the rocky beauty of the coast is one of those things I really like. And so I was thinking that I could capture that with some river rock. But I thought I'd do it a little bit different this time and not use a lead-bearing glass, but use copper-bearing and use Glacier blue powder. We'll see how it works out. Now, I was originally going to do this with a 6-inch piece of glass, but the way my kiln is set up, I'm doing everything with 5-inch pieces. Originally, a 6-inch piece of 3mm Tecta was about 170 grams. If you assume the specific gravity of Bullseye is 2.5 grams per cubic centimeter, and a 6-inch square is roughly 15 centimeters, and all of this is derived from doing lots of pattern bars. So it should be about 6 ounces. This should probably be closer to 5. It's 4. So really, I'm only going to need about 4 ounces of river rock. I've prepared 6 because I set up everything ahead of time and wasn't paying attention. But that's okay. I can use it later. So I did an even split of all of the 3 grains of frit for this. This is coarse, medium, and fine. Generally, I don't like to do an even split. I like to go heavier on the coarse because I find too much fine and medium leads to a sort of sandy appearance. But in this case, I'd like that because the river rocks of the Oregon coast are a little more uniform in color. So I'm actually looking for a more sandy, uniform appearance here. This will be what I'm looking for. Like I said, I am not using your standard lead bearing. I'm going to be using Glacier blue, which is in the same family as a copper bearing as turquoise powder. I just thought Glacier blue would be kind of fun because everybody uses turquoise and French vanilla. How is this going to work out? Well, I'm assuming it's going to work out like turquoise, but we're going to find out together. If it doesn't work out, well, then I will show these results anyway, and you'll get to learn right along with me. So, because I've set up 6 ounces of river rock, you use 5% per your total frits. So, 6 ounces times 0.5, 6 times 5 is 30, so 0.3 ounces of Glacier blue. So I set up my little cup, I tear it out. Well, it tears it out automatically, and that should be about 3 big spoonfuls, or 2 big spoonfuls, the way I'm going. That's 0.33, so we'll scoop a touch out. And you don't have to be real exact with this. I mean, the world's not going to end, but I'm a little bit anal retentive some days. So there we go, that's 0.302, it's close enough. Move my handy dandy little scale out of the way. I really like that scale. You can get it on Amazon. It's just your standard jeweler's scale. Honestly, any jeweler's scale will work. I like ones that go down to thousandths of an ounce because I had one before that only did tenths of an ounce. and it was real hard to get it to figure out if it was 3.5 or if it had switched over to 3.6. Was that 3.55 or was that 3.6? And that was difficult when you're filling color to Vera molds that want 6 grams. So, jeweler scale for the win. Okay, now you need to dampen your frit. And everybody's going to scream when they see me do this because I use my glass cleaner. For the love of Pete, don't use glass cleaner. Learn from me. Do as I say, not as I do. Use water. I'm lazy. My water sucks. And I don't feel like getting up and going and getting filtered water and finding a spray bottle. Because to be honest with you, I have 2 spray bottles. They're both filled with glass cleaner. This is sold by Bullseye. But like I said, my water sucks. And, you know, you really don't want to use glass cleaner because contaminants and all of that. But like I said, use plain water. I mean, rubbing alcohol may work too, but I'd assume it would evaporate. So if you're not going to use it all like I'm not today, it's probably not going to work out. Anyway, pretend I'm using water for the sake of this video. I give it several good squirts. Put the lid on. And shake. You'll see it stick to the side. That's all the fine. Generally stick my finger in, see if it starts coming out. It doesn't feel quite wet enough. So I give it 2 more sprays. I mean, you don't want it soaking. You don't want water pooling. Shake, shake, shake. And that looks good enough. I mean, it's getting kind of clumpy. That's definitely wet to the touch. That works. So now I'm going to add some Glacier Blue. And I'm not going to add it all because it's 3/10 of an ounce is quite a bit. I'm going to add a bit and incorporate. Kind of like making a cake. You don't dump all the flour in at once. I'm going to add a bit and shake. Add a bit and shake. And don't mind the bandage on the back of my hand. I brushed up against my glass rack and caught myself with a piece of sharp glass, so Mickey is keeping me company. And add the rest. And then shake like hell. Alright. This is the boring part. And shake well enough that you get the glass off the sides, because you never know how much of your Glacier Blue is going to get caught there. Now, Glacier Blue in color is nearly white. Your French vanilla is nearly white. How well is this mixed? Anybody's guess. But it looks slightly bluer, but that again, since I used glass cleaner and glass cleaner's blue, it's anybody's guess. Again, don't at me, please. I know I'm doing a bad thing. But in all my fusings, it works out, so we're going to leave it be. Now, I'm going to use a layer of glass tack gel. I mean, you don't have to, but I'm sure some of this is going to migrate. So this is just going to keep some of it from falling off the edge. Then again, it might just all go kershplody and, you know, take off. I'm going to pile it up in the center and start spreading it out. Now, again, you've got 3 millimeters of Tecta. So you don't necessarily need to make it this freaking thick. Granted, there'll be air bubbles, and you're going to see, it's not going to be a perfect layer where you're not going to see through. Some of these you're going to have some transparency. You've got some air in this. So you can go a bit thicker than 3 millimeters, but you really don't want to go like 6 millimeters of frit. I don't want to use this entire jar of frit. I'm going to want 1/3 of this left over. I really am only going to want to go 3.5, 4 ounces of the frit mixture. That's a terrible scraping noise. But I really am only going to want to go 3.5, 4 ounces because I don't want to overload this. Otherwise, it's going to be a shapeless blob. Now, to be fair, that's not necessarily a bad thing in a part sheet because you should always make your part sheet bigger than you need. For example, if you're making an 8-inch plate, make a 10-inch or a 9-inch, at least a 9-inch, probably a 10-inch part sheet because if that's the longest edge you need, because you're going to need to cut off pieces. You're not going to have a perfect 8-inch piece of workable glass every time. So, you know, not necessarily a bad thing to, and don't use your fingers. Learn from my fail. I'm having all sorts of fails today. In my defense, I'm prepping for knee surgery today. So I'm a little bit out of it. And by the time you see this, I will have had knee surgery, and the finished product will be handled with me having had knee surgery, as I won't be good for a few days after knee surgery. But what I'm going to do is finish this up quietly and stop babbling about my poor knee. And then I'm going to pop it in the kiln with the blank, the steel blue blank. I'm going to full fuse both, and then I'm going to come back and we will start the process of cutting up the blank to be used. Okay, I think I've just about got it, because I think some of this will flow out. And again, if some of this shows the Tecta underneath, it's okay. It's art. It doesn't need to be perfect. But yeah, I'd say that's good enough. It's going to be a pain to pick up anyway. So, tweezers. Yeah, you can see where everything was. And pick. Good enough. Well, now it's going off to the kiln, and I will show you once it has, well, yeah. I'll make some minor adjustments, and then I will show you once it's back from the kiln. Okay, it's time to take a look at my ocean pieces. So here is the blank. It's really beautiful. This steel blue is just like the perfect color for the Oregon coast. I put it on a piece of white, you can really see it. It's super beautiful, and I sandwiched the thin piece between 2 layers of 2mm Tecta, and it brought out a bunch of bubbles, which I'm really happy with because, you know, it's the ocean churned, it gives you a lot of bubbles. So that piece I'm happy with. But the river rock didn't really turn into river rock. It's more beach sand. Not a failure. I can work with it, but I was honestly expecting dark river rock. This is more what the Oregon coast rocks look like. This is more what our beaches look like. So it's going to skew the plate a little bit. It's not going to look quite like the haystack rock formations and things we have here on the Oregon coast. But if I don't use this up, or at least try and do something with it, then what's going to happen is it's going to sit in my pile of unfinished projects for another 6 or 8 years before I finally decide to do something with it. So rather than waste its potential, we're going to cut it up into puddles. Puddles are simple. You cut them into chunks, you refuse them, and like you do a dot, and you have puddles. But in my case, I've got a problem, is that I've got a 3mm Tecta base. So they're not going to round up as easily because they're already 6mm thick. And I can't necessarily put them on their sides because then you're going to have this thin layer of Tecta that's visible. And that's going to kind of ruin the effect. So what I think I'm going to do instead is cut them with a running tool on the back, score them, and then use nippers to kind of cut them into the shape I want, and then drag them over to my grinder and kind of bevel the edges underneath so that there's less clear. Then I can full fuse them again, and they will hopefully kind of fold over where the clear is. And from there, once they fold it over where the clear is, they'll look like little pebbles, and I can strategically place them on that plate. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, I haven't always had a great chance or great luck at trimming or cutting 6mm, so we're going to have to see how this works out. But I think what I'm just going to do is start with one chunk and then work from there. These are my handy-dandy 11-year-old pliers. Let's see if this works. And honestly, even if it hadn't worked, that's fine because you don't need perfect slices. But yeah, you can really want to trim that, see the layer of Tecta. So I'm going to have to bevel the edges under. But I think to start, I'm just going to draw, and yes, I'm holding it like a kid, some lines to give myself an idea of how to start off with some puddle shapes. Now, like, some of these are going to be way too big for this project. I mean, do I really need a puddle that big? Maybe. But I am going to go for some smaller shapes, because otherwise these sort of sizes are going to overwhelm. So I'm definitely going to be working smaller on this one. And who knows, whatever's left I might just turn into dots and put into my jar. And for those of you that aren't familiar with the jar, it's a 5-pound Bullseye frit container. About half full of every sort of dot under the sun that I've been making for the last 6 weeks. I use them for classes, but I also use them for projects personal, and for when I volunteer at the art literacy community in downtown Oregon City. See, I'm liking these small pieces. I think that'll be a little easier to work with. But for now, I think I'm going to shut up, and when I edit this video, I'll put some music in, and y'all can just watch me work for a few minutes. Okay, I think that might be enough, because I don't need to like totally crowd this place. I'm just playing with it to see what I like. Got some interesting shapes, and I am digging it. But next what I'm going to do is go to the grinder, and like I said, I'm going to take these edges and sort of bevel them under, so that there's less clear, as I'm not even doing it on camera, of course not. I'm going to bevel the clear down so that the color will overlap it just a little. And I think that'll work pretty well. And all of this stuff is going to be turned into dots because my jar can always use interesting dots. So I'm going to go set up the grinder, and I think I'll spare showing you the grinder because there's nothing exciting to it. And well, the grinder's older than I am. So I will come back with the finished pieces and show them off. Well, more than a few days have passed. I kept forgetting to put the dots in. I'm a bit of an airhead some days. To be fair, I had surgery on Friday, and as I am talking to you and filming this, it is Tuesday, and it'll probably be another week and a half before this video goes up. But my cousin's been bitten by the glass bug, and as a result, she and I have been doing armies and armies worth of dots. Like, this is a 1-pound jar full of red dots because I teach garden stakes, and everybody likes to make ones that look like tomatoes. I've got this baggie of dots that goes to Soul Flags where I volunteer. We've put 1 inch in my jar. And my cousin has been doing her own dots, and she probably has, a pound of her own dots as well. So we've been very busy, and we've been loading the kiln, and these dots didn't make it in until earlier today. But my cousin, bless her heart, was really sweet and put them in the colander and cleaned them all off and got them ready for me. So all I have to do now is assemble them on my blank. And I think they look really great. They are not as dark as I wanted, as I've said before. But I still think they look pretty damn cool, and I'm really pleased with them. I think what I kind of want to do is run them down this side and then maybe do one out here. So I'm going to run some gel because I'm kind of thinking this way. And this is glass tack. It burns off. And I'm thinking, I love this lumpy guy. Glass doesn't have a gender, but for me, for some reason, I call them guys. And this one. And I ended up with a bunch of little tiny ones because what I did is I fused the little cut-off corners. And if I could set them so that the... it's kind of fuzzy, I'm sorry. If I could set them so that the clear was on the bottom, they fused up perfectly into these little rounds. So what I'm going to try and do is get some of the bigger pieces and then fill in, like this is a wonderful sort of teardrop shape. That's going to look really great here. And then there's another teardrop this way. So I really did end up with a cool set of dots from these. So note to you, if you're thinking about it, make yourself a 3-inch Tecta, slap yourself some either Glacier blue or use one of the lead bearings and do it on top with a full fuse. And then cut it into dots and fuse yourself up some puddles. They're really cool and a lot of fun. And that's kind of an oddball shape one. I think that one's going to come out here. Maybe with a little friend? I think with a little friend. But honestly, I'm really pleased with this. I liking it way more than I thought I was going to like it. So, and you know, it doesn't have to be exact. Just because I put that curve there doesn't mean I actually have to follow it. And I think that's kind of cool. I don't have a great eye for design. A lot of what I do is mimicry. But as everything goes flying off my desk, which is a disaster, it's piled about 8 inches deep right now. But yeah, I'm really happy with this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let it sit overnight because both my kilns are currently busy. This one over here that's big has dots. This one over here has a new set of blossoms and some stars my cousin's working on. But I'm going to let it sit overnight and get some input in the morning from friends on what they think, because I've got some actual artist friends who will know what better to do. And then I'm going to throw it in the morning if I like it, and when I get back with the blank, I'm going to slump it into a plate, and then I will show you the finished product. So, in magic of YouTube time, that's going to be in just a few seconds. So here's the final piece. It turned out really cool. I'll set it down. I love it. I absolutely love it. My mold is just a standard plate mold. It's getting a little, corners are getting banged and all of that, but I just got some replacements for it. But I just love it. You can see there where the corner's chipped and it didn't slump quite right, but you can only tell by touching it and just looking at it. But it turned out really beautiful. The steel blue underneath gets magnified in a few of these dots, which is kind of interesting, but it is super cool. I am super pleased. It looks even better in person, if you can believe it. This blue is perfect. What I want to do, let's see if I can find, there's my piece, is I'd love to make another one of these and cut out a corner, and then use a piece of this and cut a jagged like coast edge, and then do white for waves and do an actual beach scene with a few nuggets like rocks. And I think that would be really cool to do. But that is my third piece, and for now, but not forever, the final thing on one of those things you can do with a river rock, or in this case, kind of a beach rock reaction. I was given some turquoise powder in translucent, so maybe we'll play with some French vanilla and it in a reaction in the future, but we'll see. Like I've said in other videos, in case you've seen those, but if you haven't, I do sell kits for this in my Etsy shop, from samplers all the way up to £1. So if you're interested in trying this out, but you don't want to have to go through the hassle of buying everything, you can hit that up. And if you do make anything, whether you buy the kit from me or you have your own stuff, please share with me and let me see them, because I love to see what's going on, and see what everybody else does with River Rock. As always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Hey, it's Steph, and I appreciate you watching my video. YouTube will recommend another one down below, so if you want to keep watching, just click on it.